everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Level Up. It is Ariel, the licensed mental health counselor, and I am back with another video. This video is mainly just focusing on therapy again, but mainly having to do with men. Now, understand that I am not a man, but I feel like this is an important topic just based off of my professional history in the clients that I've seen, and then also just the men that are in my family. So I decided to do something different with this video. I'm not going to be playing as I am talking about the topic, but I am going to have the video in the back that's pre-recorded, that's already having the gameplay, just to give people something to look at and kind of make the vibe comfortable, because this is what this page is about. It's about putting out mental health topics but making it a comfortable setting, right? I am I don't want to say not your average therapist, but I am more comfortable when it comes to the therapy setting and how I provide therapy to my clients. I try to make it a very comfortable setting and make it really lax, and I come as I am. How you see me as a therapist is kind of how you see me just as a person, and I try to laugh and make things comfortable, and I want this page to be the same thing. I want the mental health topics to get out there, but I want it to feel like a conversation. I wanted to feel like you are able to come and get the feedback, but you don't have to necessarily sit here and watch. But at the same time, you can sit here and watch and have this video in the background as a way to make yourself comfortable while also receiving the information, right? So today I wanted to talk about why men don't go to therapy, just based off of what I've seen and what I've read and the research that I have taken in, and why they should. I know that therapy already has a negative stigma in a lot of different people. Therapy already has a negative stigma in the sense of how people feel about it, depending on their culture, depending on their background, just in general, right? But I feel like when it comes to men, they don't want to come to therapy for specific reasons, and rightfully so. It's our culture, it's our society, and I'm not saying all men, these are certain men. So if the shoe fits, it fits, but if it doesn't, it doesn't, right? This is not anything to come at anyone. This is more of providing information and letting people know that I understand and I see you and I hear you, but as a therapist in this field and someone that's trying to essentially make a difference, I want people to understand, what is it that we're seeing and how we collectively can start making a difference in these things and start making a change, right? Because I feel like everybody has the right to live a positive life, but you can't do that until you face the previous issues that you have, especially if these things are constantly bothering you on a day-to-day basis. Instead of pushing this thing to the side, why not address it so that you can be mentally where you need to be to live the life that you want to live, right? So that kind of moves me into what we're talking about today, right? And again, I do have notes. I write down things because if not, I'm going to forget. And it kind of just gives me a guideline to kind of just go into what I would like to talk about, right? So the first thing that I want to say is that there are two qualities that definitely define most men. Now I say most because not everybody is like this. And again, if the shoe fits, it fits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not trying to stir up anything because I know how people like to, tussle. So I don't want to stir anything, but I do want to say that most men, the two qualities that define them is they don't really like to ask for help, and they do not like to talk about their feelings. Now, think about combining the two, asking for help about their feelings. It's like the ultimate thing that, men feel like is attacking their masculinity. Because what do we always hear from men? I'm strong, I'm able to figure out things by myself. I don't need help from nobody. I've made it this far, I'm fine. But I think that people tend to forget that even though you're able to get through life on a day-to-day basis, that's great, but there are a lot of things that we don't necessarily see that can affect us on a regular day-to-day basis, and a lot of things that we don't understand that might have come from either how we grew up, past experiences, and a lot of things that we tend to push to the side and we don't want to acknowledge. But the truth is, once you are able to acknowledge those things and accept them, whether you played a part or not, you're able to actually live the life that you want to live. And I don't want people to make this seem as if you have to go to therapy, because then again, not a lot of people agree with therapy, and that's fine. But I feel like, just with anything, how do you know until you try? And that's not with everything in life. Of course, you don't have to try every single thing and, expect that it's going to work. But I think when it comes to therapy, all you're doing is talking to someone and getting the feedback from them, right? And I think that people take it as a slight and make it seem as if, therapists are trying to get into your business. And I think especially with men too, um, they don't want a woman therapist, which is fine. But I've also seen a lot of men that do want a woman therapist so that they can get the perspective of a woman. So that makes sense too. But when it comes to men, they like to think of themselves as being strong, problem solver types. But when it comes to emotional and mental health issues, men need to quit trying to bottle up their feelings and tough it out. It's okay to ask for help. Just because you ask for help doesn't necessarily mean that you're weak. Um, if anything, what do we usually hear from a lot of women is that they feel like the strongest men are the one that actually went through therapy, or whatever it is that they went through. It might not necessarily be therapy, but it could be other ways, whether it's through religion, whether it's through anything that you feel like is positive in your life, and you were able to take the time to sit down and analyze everything that you've been through and understand that you're not going to take those feelings or whatever it is that you went through and carry it in a backpack with you for the rest of your life and affect every single person that you come in contact with. It creates more meaningful relationships for you. So why not even just take the chance of trying it? And I can understand too if you've had a history in your family or just in general in your culture where therapy was always seen as a negative thing. So you're kind of just like, why should I even try this? And I don't want anybody in my business. And I completely get it. I get it. It's weird coming to talk to a stranger, but at the same time, you gotta think about it. The stranger knows nothing about you. Us as therapists, we are trained to essentially be here to guide you and give you feedback and teach you the things that we've learned to be able to get through life and get through whatever it is that you've been through. But we're not here to manipulate. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're honestly here to just work through whatever it is that you're going through, or whatever it is that you want to bring to the table so that we can address these things, right? So again, taking these things into mind. Now, with the note that I have here, it says one of the biggest mental health problems affecting men is depression. And I know that we hear depression a lot in a lot of people, especially since the pandemic. Depression is a big factor that's affecting not only men, but when it comes to the specific, not specific, but more so when it comes to um, the top diagnosis that men usually go through, depression is definitely one of them. Over 6 million males are affected by depression in the US per year, according to the National Institute of Mental Health. Scientists are finding that depressive symptoms in men can manifest as increased fatigue and higher levels of irritability and anger. The loss of interest in work and other activities as sleep disruption are also signs, right? So I think this is something that, you know, would be a symptom that people would easily push to the side or ignore, because in our regular day-to-day life, people get upset, people get tired, people have to deal with things going through life on a regular basis, especially men who work hard, the men that are out doing the work, whether it's physical work or just being in an office in general. A lot of that can take a mental toll on you, especially if you're the type of person that doesn't want to ask for help. So I can completely understand how depression can be a big impact on men, because if you're not asking for help and you're just taking everything in, you're having to deal with the problems of not only at your home but also in your workspace. That can be a lot to deal with. So I can understand how men are starting to have a lot of depressive symptoms, but you don't have to live that way, and you can get the help that you need so that you can get coping strategies, medication, whatever it is that'll help you get balance so that you can live the life that you are supposed to live without having to let these specific symptoms affect you on a regular basis, right? So there's this pervasive misconception that therapy is for people with real problems, right? And I'm going to say real with quotation marks because problems when it comes to therapy, everybody's issues are different. Nobody's issues are on a hierarchy or higher than anybody else's. So when it comes to therapy, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's for people with real problems, right? It's for anybody that's going through anything. And I want people to understand too, you don't have to come to therapy just because you're having problems. If you need someone to talk to, you can come to therapy for that too. A lot of times people will come to therapy because they're having life stressors, they're having transitions in their life, and it's something new and they don't know how to navigate it or what to do with those emotions. So you have the right to come to therapy for that too. Don't think because you have to wait for something negative to happen for you to reach out for help. That's definitely not how it works. We want you to come and get the help that you need, whether that's, just needing support, because that's what we're here for, to be able to provide that support so that, again, you can live the life that you wanted to live. Because not every problem is a negative thing. It could just be a thing of like, I don't know what's happening in my life right now. I'm at an age where, this is not something that I'm used to. So I just need some help and some guidance. Because we also have to remember too, in this day and age, it's 2024, therapy has so many niche. Everybody has their own niche that if you really have something going on, I'm sure there's a therapist out there that can help you. There are therapists for everything. You just have to actually go and look for it, right? And that's easier said than done, but I want the information to go out there that there are therapists that specialize in certain things that you wouldn't even think of, but it's at least okay to ask or to at least look for it, right? So this kind of brings me into the topic of, why don't men go to therapy? Like, what is it that I've seen? What are the things that I've heard, or just in general from my own family, friends, people that I know, and through my work? What have I heard, and research and online and stuff? What have I heard that have stopped men from coming to therapy, right? So the first thing would be the social stigma, the fear and shame and judgment, that if they express their struggles. Some dislike the idea of being dependent on medication or therapy to be functional or feel happy. Though most wouldn't hesitate to seek medical care for a broken ankle or take medication for high blood pressure, some men may worry that they'll be perceived as weak or broken if they need therapy or medication to help them with depression or anxiety. Now, social stigma is definitely a big part of this. As much as we say that we don't care what people think, a lot of people do care what people think, especially when it comes to mental health and being open and honest that you're actually seeing someone, to get help. I don't know why that's an embarrassing thing, because again, like I said, we get help for everything. When you get sick, you go to the doctor because you don't know what to do, and the doctor specializes in that specific thing in order to help you. A medical doctor helps you with the human body because that's what they are trained to do. They have specialists who specialize in certain parts of the body in order to help you with that. Now, why is it such not hard, but why is it such an embarrassing thing to reach out to a therapist when you're having mental health issues? And I think that's where the disconnect is, right? I don't know if people understand the wide range of what mental health is. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're crazy. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have a psychotic disorder. Mental health is just truly that you are not in a state where you are able to function to your best potential, right? Your mental health is affected to the point that this is on a regular basis or it's in certain situations, right? So if you have social anxiety, your mental health is affected to the point that you don't want to go out in certain situations, and that holds you back from hanging out with the people that you love or just in general. And a lot of times I see when it comes to this, people will be okay with it for a while, and then it's not until it takes a little bit, then they start realizing, dang, I really wish that I could go and spend time with family and friends, but this social anxiety is beating me up. maybe it's time that I reach out to somebody so that they can help me so I can overcome this thing and I'm not letting it affect me all the time. Now, I'm not saying that you have to do that, but if it's something that you've been thinking about, you're in a contemplation stage, it's something that I don't see why not seek out. And I want people to understand too, with this social stigma, you can change your mind and stop therapy if you want to. You can also switch therapists. You don't have to stay with one. It's the same thing with the doctor. If you go to your first doctor's visit and you feel like the conversation that you had with your doctor and the experience that you had didn't go well, you're going to change it. A lot of times people will change it, and you can do the same thing with therapy. You don't have to stay with a therapist, and I explained this in my first episode, the misconceptions about therapy. You don't have to stay with a therapist if you don't feel like the therapist is right for you, because again, like I said in the beginning of this video, we want the space to be comfortable for everyone. The last thing us as a therapist would want is for you to be uncomfortable. And I would rather you, and this is why I'm saying this, is because there are good therapists out there, and a good therapist would want you to go be with someone who is essentially going to benefit you and not want to keep you as a client just to make money for themselves, because that's not right. And we all know that there are people in every profession that are like that. I mean, not everybody is perfect, but there are certain people that will, do certain things in order to benefit themselves, even though they're hurting other people. And unfortunately, they get away with it. But there are good therapists out there that will refer you when they feel like, this is too much for me, or they can get the sense that you're not comfortable and you're not saying anything, but again, you have the right to switch, right? So the next thing that I've seen of why men don't want to come to therapy is they have a difficulty expressing their emotions. If you grew up in a family where your father was kind of like tough, suck it up, don't talk about nothing, keep everything to yourself, or you grew up in a culture like mine, I'm Haitian, where they don't even talk about your emotions. Forget anything of that when it comes to your emotions. You should be happy that you have a roof over your head and we're doing everything that we can to provide for you. And it doesn't mean that we don't love you, but we don't talk about emotions, right? And if you don't talk about these things in your day-to-day life, as you grow up, you come accustomed to it. And then when you start being in relationships and you start being with people who did grow up in a family that was able to express it, that's where the challenge comes, because now this person is wanting you to talk about things to a certain level that you're not used to. And again, this is where you can use the resource of therapy to be able to practice this, to be able to get the help and understand that yes, I didn't learn how to express my emotions, but there's no age where I can't learn and be able to benefit this relationship that I am in, or just in general, me as a person, so that I can communicate with people well. Because it doesn't matter if you're in a romantic relationship, it doesn't matter if you're in a friendship, it doesn't matter if you're talking with your coworkers. You want to be able to know how to express your emotions so that you don't let people walk all over you or just do whatever they can. And also being able to express your emotions kind of pushes you away from always running into physical as your way of defending yourself, right? When it comes to just in general expressing your emotions, a lot of times we want to fight someone when we're upset. But we can change that and learn to walk away, or we can learn how to express how we're feeling. And if the person doesn't respect that, then we know that we can end the conversation there. But I think once you're able to express your emotions, you start using that more. And then a lot of times it creates better situations for yourself, right? The other thing, like I was just saying, shake it off. Boys don't cry or share their feelings. Those are things that we always hear from men that they grew up with their family, and just the men in their family. I don't blame them, because this is the life that we grew up in. Back in the day, therapy wasn't really a thing that was talked about, especially in the Black culture, the Caribbean culture. Like, that was not something that was a regular thing for our own parents. So now that we're kind of seeing this shift in social media and online, it's starting to become more prevalent, and I'm definitely starting to see more men talk about it. We see Charlemagne talk about it all the time on the Breakfast Club. He's a big advocate for it. But more people are starting to talk about it and it's become more popular. And I just want people to understand the importance of it and making sure that you are getting the right information so you're not continue to be discouraged, and understand that things have changed from how they were previously, right? The other thing is, I don't need help. I know where I'm going. I'm fine. And this is a big one because I want people to understand that you can be fine. You can know where you're going, but I think it's essentially how do you know how to get there? A lot of times when I see clients, they have a goal of getting to something, but they just don't know how to do those steps to get to that point. Like, you can ultimately have a goal to do whatever you want in life, but if you don't have no steps, if you don't have a plan on how to get to that goal, you're kind of just left with words. You're kind of just left with the thought. And nobody wants to feel that way, where they feel like they can't accomplish something because they don't have a plan. So again, there are many different therapists that can help you reach whatever goal it is that you need to reach. You just have to look for it again. So again, when it comes to I don't need help, I know where I'm going, there's also the thought process of there's so many resources out there, and I want people to understand too, this is a reason why everyone is here in these specific resources, is because we don't know it all. Even me as a therapist, I don't know everything. That's why I have to continue educating myself and staying up to date with the latest research. And so I'm understanding what's going on in the, current field of my study, so that I understand what's going and I can provide the best care to my clients. But this is the same thing with humans and just men in general. You don't know everything, and it's okay not to know everything. And it's also okay to get the help so that you can understand how to get to the point where you do understand yourself as a person. So it's okay to let go sometimes and just talk to someone. And there's male therapists too. I think that's the even better part. There are male therapists who are able to help you and understand exactly where you're coming from. And then that's another thing too. With therapy, you're able to ask for a specific gender. You're able to ask, like, I'm more comfortable with this and that person. I want someone who has this background. So again, it can be more comfortable for you because ultimately this is your space, right? Like, of course, this is our space. We're inviting you, but ultimately this is your space. This is your time. I'm here to guide you. Let me know how I can make you comfortable so that you're able to express yourself, right? Because that is ultimately the whole point. And then the last one that I always see why men don't want to come to therapy is, I'm not laying on a sofa spilling my guts to a stranger, right? There's definitely a misconception about what a modern therapist office looks like. While most offices don't usually look the same, they kind of all have that same feel of, again, making you feel comfortable. A lot of therapists have couches, a lot of therapists decorate so that it kind of fits their personality. But there's also different therapies where you can do virtual therapy and you can do it from your home. Now that can be a bit distracting for some people, but for people that again have social anxiety or just anxiety in general, being able to do therapy from your home has been such a game changer, because not everybody is comfortable or has the time to even just leave their house. I mean, let's be real here. Like, people work 2-3 jobs, especially in this climate. Like, it's very expensive to live right now. So if you're able to do virtual therapy and you feel like that's something that you can focus on, like, of course, having the space to do it, and having the time, like if you have kids, you can have somebody watch them, and having the privacy of having a separate space in the house where you feel like nobody's gonna be able to hear you, because that's important too. Again, you kind of want to treat it like if you're in a regular therapy office where people can't hear your business, but you're comfortable and able to express yourself, right? Just based off of having the right space and having the right mindset, because that plays a lot with it too. If you don't have the right mindset, then you come into therapy, it's gonna be very hard for you, because you have to be honest with yourself. And again, us as therapists, we're not here to judge you. But again, a lot of times people don't want to come to a therapist. Like I've said in this specific why men don't want to come to therapy, it's They don't want to talk to a stranger. But I think people got to understand too, talking to a stranger is probably one of the best things that you can do because we are unbiased. Now, I'm not saying just go talk to any regular person, but come and talk to a therapist because, again, we are trained to do this job. I've seen a lot online now on social media that people are saying don't go to therapy because therapists can be manipulative and they tell you what to do. Um, and that's not true. Like, what would we get out of telling you what to do? Essentially, this is your life. You're not going to be with us forever. You have to learn how to manage your life on your own. So the last thing that we want to do is manipulate you and tell you what to do. You know, our time is precious. We want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can. And us as therapists also don't get paid a lot of money to sit around and do that too. If you're gonna come in and get the help, we want to give you the strategies that you can, because you know this job is essentially a job that's supposed to be fulfilling for someone because you're in it to help other people. um I mean, it's a lot of work to get to that point, but to sit there and just, you know, mess with people's lives is not something that we want to do. So of course talking to a stranger can definitely be an awkward thing, but we are essentially here to help you and make sure that you are comfortable. And working through your license and how hard you work, the last thing that you want to do also is put people's business out there. So we don't, and I mean, I'll speak for myself and the people that I know, we don't put other people's business out there, especially our clients, because that's the last thing that we want to do, and it would ruin our reputation and just the overall rapport and relationship that you take to build with clients, right? It takes a lot to be able to build someone's trust. And to mess that up by gossiping is the last thing that any therapist would want to do, as far as what I've seen and what I have heard, right? So now I want to shift into why men should get therapy, right? And again, this is just a suggestion. I don't want people to feel like I'm telling people that they have to, but this is just a suggestion based off of my research and what I've seen and what I've experienced, right? So, what I spoke about before, depression is the most common reason men should seek professional help. Many life situations, jobs, relationships can trigger symptoms, and prolonged sadness, lack of energy, and constant feeling of stress. Why would you want to live like that? You know, I know jobs can be stressful, but at the end of the day, it's only a certain amount of hours that you spend at work. You want to essentially live your life and do the things that you want to do, and that comes with having the balance. But if you don't know how to do that, it becomes a lot. So please reach out if you really need it. You'll learn more about yourself. And you know, I'm sure people are like, oh, I already know myself. I'm me. How are you gonna tell me about me? You know, and that's true. Listen, we don't know you, but this is why we take the time to get to know you. So that essentially we can figure out what it is that you want and then help you get to that point, right? We're not gonna tell you what to do. We're gonna have you tell us who you are as a person. What is it that you seek? What type of help do you want? Essentially, what is it that you are coming in for, and tell us how we can help you, right? That goes into helping you achieve your goals. Therapy can help you achieve your goals. If you have been trying to reach certain goals and it has been a challenge for you, sometimes you can, you know, get help from others, and other people can see things that you haven't been seeing, or they can just suggest things that you didn't even think to suggest because you're getting it from a different perspective, right? So it's the same thing with a therapist. Therapy can help you clarify your goals, set realistic steps, and develop skills and strategies to meet them, right? A therapist will offer guidance, recommendations, but they don't tell you what to do, right? Therapy empowers you to take action on your own, right? I want that to be very emphasized here. Therapy empowers you to take action on your own. We are not here to tell you what to do. We are just here to help you and guide you, right? um, it can lead to improvement in areas of your life. If you feel like there's something that's holding you back from living the life that you want to live, therapy can help you address this. When you aren't sure what's keeping you from making changes, therapy can help you discover the answer. Sometimes there's certain things that you aren't seeing that somebody else can see, and sometimes getting feedback and having conversation and getting advice from family can be biased. And, sometimes they are just saying things because they don't want to hurt our feelings. And, sometimes people will tell me, well, this and that keeps it real with me. They're able to tell me this and that. And I get that. I completely get it. But coming from a professional standpoint, we are strictly here to tell you what's going on without any emotions, right? We don't know you as a person. We're simply just taking your specific situation, figuring out who you are as a person and how we can help you work through this thing, right? And I think that's a little bit different and can be challenging when it comes to family and friends. And that's also a lot of pressure to put on them, right? Because the last thing that we would want is for whatever it is that they told you to not work out, and now you're blaming them for everything, and then that causes a rift in the relationship. So why not go through a professional who is able to essentially help you address this thing, and so that you can be able to do it on your own, right? Therapy also helps you find tools that will exponentially improve your relationships. Again, men tend to go into the fix it mode instead of expressing themselves and holding a safe space for their partner or just people in general. A lot of times men just want solution, 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 and they don't want to focus on the emotion because it's too much for them. And again, they don't know what to do with that, right? They struggle with using I statements, and don't practice building their communication muscles. When you don't know how to express your emotions by stating I feel, I would rather, I don't like, it can be very hard for you to say what you have to say, and then you kind of avoid those conversations. But avoiding those conversations is not going to help your relationships, right? Essentially, the person is going to get fed up and they want to talk about these things, and you can't run away from it. So, why not learn how to address it instead of running away from it, right? So, once we have the ability to express ourselves, we can be present and we can create a safe space for our partner or just the people in our lives to be able to feel like they can talk to us comfortably, right? And the last thing would be learning to stop trying to fix everything, right? Men tend to think that they can do everything by themselves, and not necessarily because of ego. It's a pressure that they put on themselves to take care of the people that they care about. When it comes to relationships, sometimes they don't realize that they are only 50% of the equation. By thinking that they can fix by thinking that they can fix everything, they can easily cross the line into controlling behavior, which is true, without even knowing it. That means that they must let go of what they can't control and focus on themselves. And this is a big part that I want to emphasize. I think that people forget on a regular basis is that you can't focus on the things that you can't control, because again, there's just so much that you can do about it. And I know it's easier said than done, but when you really are in a situation and you think to yourself, man, what is it that I can control right now and what can't I control? And then you're like, wow, okay, there's nothing that I can do about that right now. And me getting upset and creating these emotions for myself are not going to help, right? So let's focus on the things that I can control to create less stress for myself, right? This is what therapy is all about. Essentially, therapists are trained to keep the focus on the client so that they can take ownership of their issues and let go of other people's. So you want to focus on what's going on in your own life and be able to give yourself the benefit of the doubt and understand that it's okay to make mistakes and work from what it is that you just went through. And not to take in other people's issues, because that's exhausting as well. You can only focus on yourself, and worrying about others will keep you essentially stressed out, and that's the last thing that you want to do, is constantly be stressed, right? We want to live a happy, free, positive life, even though we know life has up and downs. But if there are certain things that we can control, let's work on those things instead of stressing over the things that we can't control, right? So, just to close out the conversation, there's a stigma around men's mental health, but the conversations are changing, right? There's an effort to close the gap and help men get therapy when they need it. If you're a man considering therapy, you are not alone. That's very important to know that there are men that are considering therapy, and it's okay. And also, if you go to therapy, you don't have to tell people that you're in therapy. You can essentially keep it to yourself whenever you're ready. If it's something that you feel like you want to keep to yourself, you are allowed to do that. Understand that. That goes with boundaries. That's in my old video if you want to watch that as well. If you don't want to tell anybody about that, you are allowed to, but understand that it is not something to be ashamed of, but it's something that you should be proud of, that you took the time to really focus on yourself and get the help that you need, right? Remember that talking with a therapist isn't a sign of weakness. It takes strength and determination to face your mental health head on, right? A lot of times people push their mental health to the side, and that's not good. It will show up in different areas that you don't even expect, areas that you wouldn't even think of, or areas that you don't even notice. But I feel like when you start to see a pattern, take heed. Try to be more proactive than reactive, and get the help that you need so that you can communicate with people and have more positive experiences that you can control more than negative, right? And the last thing that I'm going to say is your mental health is equally as important as your physical health. Not addressing negative feelings can carry over to aspects of your life and have a profound impact. That is very important, and that was also spoken about in my previous video, the one that I just posted about how your mental health affects your physical health. People don't understand that if you don't address your mental health problems, it can show up physically in other physical symptoms. You keep pushing it down and trying to push it to the side, it's going to pop up in other areas. And you may not want it to, but it will show up in certain things. And I know a lot of times we want to ignore it, but trust me, when we ignore things, they're gonna come to light and they're gonna show up. So instead of, like I said before, instead of being reactive, let's be proactive and get the help. So as I close out this video, I just want to thank you guys for watching another one of my videos. I'm going to try and continue this format and make this a little bit more comfortable, because I want people to understand that it's okay to talk about mental health, and I want us to get to the point where we are okay with speaking about it, right? Because it's okay to talk about our feelings, right? So I just want people to understand that it's okay to get the help that you need to help, especially for men. As a Black woman myself, I know that Black men go through a lot in day-to-day life, and I don't want to diminish just other men in general, but just speaking from my own perspective and my own family, the Black men in my life and just men in general go through a lot, and I hate to see them not necessarily suffer, but I hate to see them not get the resources that they want because they feel ashamed and they feel like it's something that they shouldn't be doing, or it's weird for them, right? There are so many cool therapists out there that can help you, and your mental health is something that is very important. And we all know that if we don't take care of ourselves mentally, and if we're not in the right headspace, it's very hard for us to be able to just get through life, and just get through daily work, or in general just getting through life on a daily basis, right? So why stop yourself from not engaging in this resource, or at least just trying it to see if it'll help, right? So hopefully this will help someone. Please let me know down in the comments if there's any other topics that you guys would like me to touch upon. Please join in on the conversation if you guys have any feedback, and I'm going to keep putting the content out there. So please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.